people, and I say quite simply, Arizona coming to a state near you. Because it's true. Because over the past several years, people would watch what was happening in Arizona and be like, damn, those people are crazy. Is it something about the water? No, the water's fine. We stole it from Colorado. There's nothing wrong with the water. There's something wrong with the people in public office in Arizona. And people say, oh, the Tea Party, please. Those people have been in charge for like 20 years in Arizona. They're called Republicans. I think we should stop calling them Tea Party. No, it's not a Tea Party. They're Republicans. They're Republicans. We should call them that because the Republicans get a free ride when they call the Tea Party something other than what they are. And we have to say, no, Tea Party, Republican, it's all the same thing. It's called crazy. So, they've been in charge in Arizona for a long time. But what's happened is that our new state Senate president, Russell Pierce, who some of you may remember, Russell Pierce is the author of the anti-immigrant legislation that passed in Arizona last year. He's also the author of every piece of anti-immigrant legislation that's moving forward in legislatures in this entire country. Now, you all have a number of anti-immigrant measures moving forward in your legislature. They are drafted and written in my state Senate. Russell Pierce has done this for the entire nation. He's teamed up with a national organization called FAIR, which is just a thinly veiled white power hate group, and a group called ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, which is a corporate-funded group that helps state legislators push their bad ideas through the legislature all over the country. And so right now, for instance, you see bills like SB 1070, which was our bill passed last year, not only in your legislature, but in 18 other legislatures across the country. Now, I just want to tell you, it's not because some Republicans in your state got the bright idea of copying it. They're not that creative. Right? They went to a conference that was sponsored by ALEC, and they were given this information, and then taught the strategies to go back and pass these bills in their respective states. And make no mistake about it, this is a national strategy to mainstream hatred that has been highlighted and flourished in the Arizona state legislature. So why it's important to think about what's happening in Arizona is simply because that's what's coming to your state next. The legislation that you see happening this year, the attack on women and women's right to make choices about their lives, their families, and their futures, that comes directly from Arizona state legislature. The bills that you are seeing in the legislature this year to restrict a woman's right to choose, to force her to listen to the heartbeat of the fetus and to look at a picture, that I know that's in your legislature. Yeah, it came from my legislature. That's where it came from. And the bills that are moving forward to take away health care from children who are on the CHIP program, Governor Perry's all over that. That came from Arizona's legislature. We did that 2 years ago, right? Bills to make it harder for working families to have job security, which, I mean, hell, it's Texas, they don't have job security anyway. But that's the only reason we don't see our capital filled with workers, because we don't have any of the rights that workers have in Wisconsin and Indiana and Illinois and Ohio. Ours have already been stripped away years ago. So what we see happening in states like Texas, and all over the country, are ideas that have been piloted in Arizona and exported to other parts of the country. And I want to talk to you about some of the things that I think that you can do to stop your state from becoming Arizona. You know, my state, I was born and raised in Arizona, born and raised in Tucson, near the border, and gosh, when we grew up, I remember in first grade, we learned a song about Arizona, because Arizona is the state of the 5 C's. So cattle, copper, citrus, cotton, and climate. And those were the 5 things that our state historically made its money off of. But I would add a 6th C, it's called crazy. Because what's happening in my state is pure craziness. Pure craziness. But here's the scary thing. This has been happening in my state for a number of years. And yet, as we see election after election after election, particularly in this last election, my state, like your state, took an ass whipping, right? My state went from being in the minority in both chambers, just like yours, to being in the super minority in both chambers. You were dangerously close to that. You have a super minority in the House, but not quite a super minority in the Senate, correct?
Correct.
Thank God. Hold on to that Senate. Because let me tell you, there's a huge difference between being in the minority and being in the super minority. When you're in the super minority, those individuals can engage in whatever kind of rogue behavior they want, and they have the power to override a governor's veto if, God forbid, the governor were to ever veto anything. Right? My governor, she's not much of a reader, so.